dynamic conversation that will undoubtedly shed light on the challenges and opportunities within this topic, the topic of democracy and the rule of law. As we embark on this intellectual journey, let us engage in a collective exploration of ideas that will not only inform but inspire us to navigate the complexities of democracy in Pakistan and the hindrances surrounding the concept of rule of law in Pakistan. So let me introduce the panelists. In first place, I would introduce Zahid Hussain Saab. Zahid Hussain Saab is a world-renowned and award-winning journalist and author. He is a former scholar at Woodrow Wilson Center and a visiting fellow at Wolfson College, University of Cambridge, and at the Stimson Center in DC. He is the author of The Frontier, Pakistan, The Struggle with Militant Islam, as well as the author of The Scorpion's Tail, The Relentless Rise of Islamic Militants in Pakistan. Frontier, Pakistan was the book of the year in 2007 by the Wall Street Journal. Another masterpiece amongst his excellent books was No Win, No War. No Win War?
No Win War.
No Win War, actually No Win War.
The paradox of music.
Okay, which was recently published. So I cordially welcome you to this panel discussion, sir. In the second place, I would love to introduce Syed Akhtar Ali Shah Saab to you people. Syed Akhtar Ali Shah Saab started his career as an advocate enrolled in 1981 before joining the prestigious police service of Pakistan. He is a former Home Secretary, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and retired Inspector General of Police. He is a leading expert in Pakistan's security sector. He has been awarded Gallantry Awards, Quaid-e-Azam's Police Medal and President's Police Medal. He was also the member of the syndicate and the selection board of the University of Swabi. He currently heads a think tank named Good Governance Forum. In recognition of his services, the University of Swabi conferred upon him the honorary degree of PhD in the area of peace and conflict resolution. He also holds his PhD in the political science. He has written various and numerous research articles on various issues of governance and conflict, and his expertise are mainly in law and constitution, terrorism, counter-terrorism, countering violence, and Afghanistan, governance and tribal areas. He currently practices law at the High Court and appears regularly on TV and talk shows. So, if your good self allow me, shall we proceed with the discussion?
Yes.
Sir. So, in first place, I would like to request Mr. Zahid Hussain Saab to start discussion on the topic of democratic transition in Pakistan, sir.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this prestigious conference and a beautiful campus, I must say. Congratulations to Vice Chancellor. And so it's very, one feels greatly honored to be with all of you. Let me start with the transition of democracy. That's the subject you have just given. Well, actually now there's a few months are left for the elections to happen, and it's going to be conducted on February 8th. And according to the Supreme Court, that there should not be any ambiguity about it. So we believe that, because until now actually there was some kind of uncertainty where the elections would be held in town. So finally the date has come. But a big question for all of you is that will it lead to strengthening of democracy? That's a major question. I think probably you will all be, keen to understand. And I think actually one has to understand what democracy means. Because the general perception is this, that when the elections are held, democracy is restored in the country. And that's not fact. Election is the only first step towards democracy. And democracy means something more,
Exactly.
the power to the people and who they represent. So that's a major question which has confronted Pakistan for many years. First, I will give, instead of going into detail of current politics, I will just go about what has been the problem of democracy in the country. It has been 75 years since we got independence. But if you see that in 75 years, we have not actually seen democracy to flourish in this country. There has been many reasons for that. And the problem with the democracy in this country is that we have not been allowed to practice real democracy. Country has seen direct military rule for most of its history. Then we had in between civilian government, elected civilian government. But can it be seen that as a democratic? It was some kind of democratic process, but never been allowed to strengthen it. So each civilian rule has been interrupted by the direct military rule. That has been the story of Pakistan. And what has it done to the country is that it has not allowed the democratic institution to strengthen. And when we talk about democracy, it's not just the prayer. So whether the parliament is empowered, and also that whether the parliament which you elect represent the sentiments and the interests of the people. Unfortunately, we have not seen that happening. The real problem in Pakistan is that over last 75 years, we have seen many economic development, social changes has taken place in this country. There is no doubt about that. But that social and economic changes has not been reflected in the power structure of this country. If you see actually whether it's a military government or civilian government, the power has been concentrated in hands of few hundred people, what we call elite of this society. And so, and we all know what does it mean. It means the military, civilian bureaucracy, and those actually the people who had landed aristocracy and other section of the society which had money. Because when you go to elections, I think none of you would ever be able to think about going to election because it needs a huge investment. So in a way, actually what we have seen, whether we have seen the change of face at the top, but generally the same people have ruled the country. Like I did a long time ago some study, and I believe that 400 families have the representation in all the National Assembly, Senate and the provincial assemblies. So which means the parliament or this provincial legislative body would serve the interests of those interests. So this country needs a fundamental change in the structure. This country needs reforms. And that's how actually the democracy will function. But the problem is that the people who are at the helms of power and who are supposed to make the laws, or supposed to bring change, have their own vested interests. So I think these are the problems of the Pakistani democracy. It does not mean that we should not have democracy. I mean, there's always saying, oh, democracy has failed, so we should go to some kind of authoritarian regime, and that's the best solution to the country. No. Should be very clear that whatever form, it's very weak democracy, but democracy is better than any other form of the government. At least it gives you some kind of power. But it's up to you now to how you use that power of electing your representatives. I think there are other problems too, which has challenges to Pakistan democracy and Pakistan's political stability. It's not one, yes, political stability is a major problem facing the country, but there are other issues also, which weakens the democratic process. One is economy. We have been perpetual, what we call actually perpetual economic crisis. This is the only country, I think probably in the world, which has gone to IMF almost 24 times. It's a world record. So which means actually we have been unable to reform our own system and also have a strong taxation system which could strengthen the military. So we always look towards the IMF for bailout, and that's how our system has worked for so long. The other thing actually that because of our geostrategic position, as we all know, that Pakistan has been the frontline state, and that was the topic of my first book, Frontline State of. So Pakistan has been frontline. So basically, we have been living on our strategic, importance. It means actually we have been getting a lot of fund from America and other countries. So that has also had not allowed to reform our own system. So that is, their dependency has also increased. And when we talk about dependency, it means we also lose our sovereignty. Sovereignty does not come without economic dependence. Third thing, which is very important, and particularly for you, is that rise of militancy and extremism in this country. And Shah Sahab will speak on that because he has seen, all firsthand. So that has also been a problem. So when we talk about democracy, these are three challenges. The strengthening of democratic institutions, number two, economy, and three, militancy. I'll stop here.
Sir, don't you think that someone has to take the lead? Someone has to take responsibility for that. Don't you think that the political institutions were supposed to be making all these reforms? Whether they have failed in delivering the promises they had been making to the people of this country for the last 70 to 75 years. We can't expect these reforms from those who had been creating hindrances in the flourishing of democracy.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think the parties, political parties, and the people who seek your vote,
Sir.
It is their responsibility, generally. I mean, they are sitting in the parliament. Their job to strengthen democratic process and deliver governance. That governance is another major issue with it. But unfortunately, it has not happened. Look at it now. 2 months, less than 2 months are left for the election. But have you heard any political party giving its manifesto? Has any party come actually to what they are going to do on economic front? What are they going to, are they going to deal with the rising problem of militancy in this country? No. But what you're hearing, that such and such has joined such and such political party. And this is the story of Pakistani election. Like, for example, it is what I believe actually, it is only what we can say, a brute power struggle.
Sure.
And there is no principle, and unfortunately, any other democratic country, there should have been a debate on what are the challenges, economic challenges, what are the social challenges, and how one political party or the other would solve it.
So don't you think we need to be defining the very word of democracy, the concept of democracy in Pakistan?
Well, actually, democracy as such is one meaning. There is not a several meaning of for democracy.
Sure.
But yes, actually, what is more important is how democracy is being operated or is being allowed to work. So, democracy in real sense, we have to establish a democracy in real sense, which means what actually for the people and by the people.
Sure.
So, but basically, which means we have to see, a broadened representation, and actually that power should not be concentrated in few hands, then democracy will further strengthen.
So,
And elections, yes, election is important, but basically, and the real job starts after the election. So it's your responsibility, it's the responsibility of the voter to oversee how your representative work, and that's how the democracy can be strengthened.
flourish exactly, sir. Sir, I would request Akhtar Nisha sir to give a brief note on the topic of the rule of law and the rule of man. Sir, this is something very interesting, sir.